The galaxy was a vast expanse, teeming with countless species, each with its own advanced technology and remarkable talents. Yet, there was one thing that all these aliens had come to acknowledge. When it came to ship repairs, humans were unrivaled. At the center of this reputation was the RepServe fleet, a network of human-operated repair stations scattered across the galaxy, providing vital services to any ship in need. It didn't matter if the vessel was a sleek Zorathian fighter or a massive Terran warship. Human engineers had a way of bringing them back to life, often in ways that even the original creators of the technology couldn't replicate. For years, this reputation had been well known throughout the stars. RepServe stations were the only place to turn when a ship was too damaged to return home under its own power. No species questioned it. No one argued that humans didn't have the magic touch. But recently, something strange had begun to unfold. A rising number of alien ships had started arriving at the stations, and not just a few. It was as if the floodgates had opened, and every species with a damaged vessel, no matter how minor the issue, was suddenly making their way to human repair hubs. Captain Alara Graves had seen a lot in her years overseeing one of the busiest RepServe stations at the far edge of the Proxima cluster, but the sudden surge in traffic was unlike anything she'd experienced before. Ships from races she had never even heard of appeared almost daily. Their needs varied from routine maintenance to complex, sometimes bizarre fixes that only humans seemed capable of performing. The sheer volume of ships demanding repairs was overwhelming. Some came from far-flung corners of the galaxy, while others arrived just on the edge of the station's radar. And it wasn't just the frequency of the arrivals that was strange. It was the urgency behind each one. It didn't make sense. Some ships had minor issues that would have easily been handled elsewhere. Yet they all made the long journey to the human stations. It was as if something greater was drawing them in. And the more Captain Graves observed, the more she began to sense there was something behind it all. Her engineers were starting to notice it too. The patterns were too consistent to be random. Small repairs were often requested with unnecessary haste. Larger ships were suddenly showing up with problems that they had never experienced before, almost as if someone, or something, was pushing them to seek out human expertise. Graves knew that there was something more at play here than just the usual influx of ships seeking assistance. But what? And why now? She stood in her command room, staring at the growing fleet of ships that crowded the repair bays. A few days ago, the station had been bustling with the usual amount of work. But now, it was as if every alien ship in the galaxy had decided to make the trek to their station. Something felt off. There was a tension in the air that hadn't been there before. The shipyard was bustling with activity, but Graves couldn't shake the growing unease gnawing at her. Why were they all coming? The engines whirred, the workers hustled, but beneath it all, an unsettling sense of urgency hung in the air. She had a bad feeling. She trusted her instincts, and they were telling her that something was about to change. And whatever it was, it didn't seem like it would be for the better. She decided it was time to dig deeper. The answers couldn't be that far out of reach. She couldn't let this go on without uncovering the truth behind the alien swarm, or it might cost them more than just a few repairs. There was more to these visits, and she was determined to get to the bottom of it. Her mind raced with the possibilities. Could it be that the aliens were after something more than just repairs? Maybe they were here for something far more valuable. It was time to find out. Rumors in the galaxy had a life of their own, traveling faster than the speed of light, crossing vast distances with ease. And as the RepServe station continued to receive more and more alien visitors, a particular rumor began to spread like wildfire. Whispers floated through the corridors of intergalactic spaceports, across encrypted communication channels, and between traders and travelers from all corners of the galaxy. Some said the humans had unlocked a secret, a mysterious technology, hidden within their repair systems, something so advanced that it could change the entire course of interstellar warfare and space travel. No one fully understood it, but the results were undeniable. Alien ships that came to the RepServe stations were being repaired at an alarming rate, far quicker and more efficiently than anything their own engineers could manage. Some said it was a new kind of energy that humans had harnessed, while others believed it was a form of intelligence embedded deep within human technology that made their repair systems so unique. But no one could explain how it worked. The more ships arrived, the more the rumors gained momentum, and the more questions Captain Alara Graves began to ask herself. She had seen it all before, the mechanical marvels, the engineering feats, but this felt different. The influx of alien ships wasn't just about repairs anymore. There was something more happening here, something hidden beneath the surface. The sheer volume of visitors suggested that the rest of the galaxy had caught wind of something that made human repairs irresistible. But what exactly were they after? The curiosity gnawed at Graves, pushing her to investigate further. She pored over historical records, searching for any clue that might explain the sudden surge in alien interest. After weeks of digging through ancient archives and secret data, she stumbled upon something that stopped her cold. Hidden deep within the files was a research project from the early days of humanity's expansion into space, long before the first RepServe stations were even conceived. The project, known only as Genesis, had been led by a group of scientists who were exploring the potential for creating a truly universal repair system, one that could adapt to any technology, from the most basic craft to the most advanced starships. It was said that the core of this system was based on a type of organic material, something that could interface with alien technology and repair it on a molecular level. Graves read through the findings, her heart racing. The implications were enormous. If this technology had truly been perfected, it could explain why so many alien species were flocking to human repair stations. The RepServe stations didn't just fix ships, they altered them, made them better. No one had anticipated that human engineering, with its blend of biological and mechanical advancements, would become such a powerful tool. But what worried Graves most was the secrecy surrounding the project. Why hadn't anyone talked about it? Why had it been hidden away? The answer wasn't clear, but one thing was certain. Something bigger was going on. The repairs, it seemed, weren't just repairs at all. They were a form of enhancement. The more Graves thought about it, the more the pieces fell into place. The rapid rise in the number of alien ships seeking repairs, especially the high-ranking warships from distant star systems, wasn't coincidental. These ships weren't just coming for fixes. They were coming for something else, something far more valuable. The RepServe stations were more than just repair hubs. They were becoming the key to unlocking a new level of power and technology. But as the alien ships continued to flood in, Graves felt an unease growing inside her. What if the aliens were not just interested in repairing their ships? What if they were planning something else, something dangerous? Were they trying to steal humanity's secrets? Could they be using the repairs as a cover to study and reverse engineer human technology for their own gain? It wasn't just about saving ships anymore. The stakes were higher than anyone had imagined. The flood of alien visitors had created a sense of urgency, and now Captain Graves couldn't help but feel that the galaxy's attention was focused on the RepServe stations for a far more sinister reason than just the promise of a quick repair. The question wasn't just what the aliens wanted, it was what they were willing to do to get it. The station had been quiet that evening, a rare calm among the usual flurry of activity. But the peace didn't last long. A distress call crackled over the communications channels, piercing the stillness. The voice on the other end was frantic, an officer from the Zorathian warship Sajur, a heavily armed vessel now crippled after a surprise ambush by a rogue fleet. The Zorathians, a species known for their secretive nature and a deep mistrust of outsiders, were desperate. They requested immediate repairs, their engines failing, and their weapons systems offline. Captain Graves knew the reputation of the Zorathians all too well. Their distrust of others made them difficult to deal with, and they weren't the kind to ask for help unless absolutely necessary. She felt a knot form in her stomach. Something about the call didn't sit right, but there was no turning them away. If the ship was truly as damaged as it sounded, the RepServe station was the only place that could help. When the warship finally docked, the crew's anxiety was palpable. They were eager, almost desperate to get started. And it didn't take long to see why. The damage was extensive: hull breaches, power failures, and systems offline. But Captain Graves, having dealt with countless species before, noticed something strange. The ship's internal systems seemed to flicker and glitch more than they should. Small errors appeared where there should have been none, and a strange, humming sound echoed through the repair bay as technicians started their work. At first, she tried to dismiss it, but the longer she observed, the more certain she became that something wasn't right. The Zorathian ship's systems were malfunctioning in ways that didn't make sense. It was as if the ship itself was sabotaging its own systems, intentionally causing faults to force its way to the RepServe station. As the technicians worked, Graves watched the monitors closely. The data was odd: fluctuations in the ship's power grid, strange readings from the engines, and a peculiar energy spike from the central core. These weren't the kinds of problems that a battle-damaged warship should be experiencing. After a few hours, Captain Graves had had enough. She couldn't wait for answers. She made the decision to inspect the ship herself. The Zorathian captain, a tall, stoic figure, hesitated at first, but Graves insisted. As she moved through the ship's darkened hallways, she could feel the tension in the air. The Zorathians were an enigmatic species, and their technology was unlike anything she had encountered before. The sleek, organic-looking panels on the walls pulsed with energy as she entered the main control room. There, she immediately noticed something that didn't make sense. The damage wasn't as bad as it had first appeared. There were no signs of external sabotage. The systems weren't completely down. They were being deliberately disabled. As she studied the readings, it became clear. Someone, or something, had intentionally crippled the ship to ensure it would be forced to come to the RepServe station. It wasn't an accident. It was all part of a plan. She ran through the ship's diagnostics again, more thoroughly this time, and the truth hit her like a thunderclap. The Zorathians weren't the only ones playing this game. Ships from across the galaxy were purposefully damaging their own systems, using human repair stations as a way to tap into something far more powerful than just basic ship repairs. The energy that the RepServe stations could harness wasn't just a byproduct of their advanced technology. It was an entirely new form of energy, one that could enhance a ship's capabilities, power its weapons, and give its systems a massive edge. Whoever controlled this energy would have an unimaginable advantage over others. Graves felt a chill run down her spine as the implications sank in. The alien ships weren't just here for repairs, they were here to exploit human technology. They wanted access to this mysterious energy, and they were willing to do anything to get it. The RepServe stations, built to repair and maintain, had become the key to an unprecedented source of power, one that could tip the balance of power across the galaxy. What had started as a simple request for help was now a much bigger, more dangerous game, and the Zorathians, along with countless other species, were part of it. The real question now was, how far would they go to claim this power? And what would humanity do when they found out they were caught in the middle of it all? Captain Alara Graves could no longer deny it. Something far more dangerous was unfolding at the RepServe station. At first, she had believed the sudden flood of alien ships seeking repairs was a simple consequence of human ingenuity. But now, with each new arrival, the pattern had become clearer. It wasn't just about ship repairs, it was about something far more insidious. She had seen enough to know that these ships weren't just damaged vessels. They were part of something much bigger, something carefully orchestrated. The Zerathians were only the beginning. More warships from different species were following. The same pattern, arriving with minor damage, asking for repairs, and in many cases, hiding something. Graves began to notice something troubling. Under the guise of simple maintenance, some of these ships were carrying highly classified, experimental technology. Tech that was unlike anything humans had seen before. The advanced weaponry, power cores, and propulsion systems were all carefully disguised, but under her careful inspection, the truth was impossible to ignore. These ships were being brought to RepServe not just to be fixed, but to be studied. Some of the more advanced systems were being reverse-engineered by human technicians faster than Graves could have ever imagined. The aliens, she realized, weren't just admiring human repairs. They were watching closely. They were studying how the RepServe stations worked, gathering intelligence on human capabilities. She couldn't help but wonder, had humanity unknowingly become the most coveted resource in the galaxy? She was growing increasingly uneasy. As the days passed, more and more ships arrived, and with them, more secrets. Every technician at the station was now under the careful scrutiny of alien observers. The peaceful work of repairing starships had slowly turned into something far more covert, an unspoken game of espionage. It became clear that the station, once a safe haven for ships in distress, was now a strategic point in a silent war for power. Graves knew she had to confront this head-on, so she called for a meeting with Vexa, a diplomat from the Galtoric Alliance who had arrived under the pretense of seeking repairs for one of their battle cruisers. Vexa had been cordial but distant. Like all the other alien visitors, it wasn't hard to spot the underlying tension in their conversations. When Graves finally cornered Vexa in the station's meeting room, the diplomat's normally calm demeanor faltered for a moment. "You know, don't you?" Graves asked bluntly. "That all these ships are hiding something." Vexa's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Graves thought she wouldn't answer. But after a tense pause, the diplomat sighed, seeming to accept the inevitable. "Yes, Captain, we do." The words hung in the air like a weight. "You have to understand, your repair technology, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. We thought your species were simply good at fixing things, but your engineers have unlocked something far more powerful. Your ability to reverse engineer alien technology. It's faster than any species could have anticipated. We and many others have been studying your work in secret." Graves leaned forward, her mind racing. "What are you saying?" Vexa continued, her voice soft yet filled with urgency. "Some factions in the galaxy believe that humanity has discovered something ancient, a powerful technology that could turn the tide of any conflict. It's not just about repairs, it's about what you've learned from our technology, what you're building." Graves froze. The realization hit her like a wave. The RepServe stations weren't just helping ships. They were becoming incubators for something much darker. The alien technology, repaired and reverse-engineered by human hands, was being used to fuel something bigger. Something that could reshape the galaxy's balance of power. But the most disturbing part of Vexa's confession was the unspoken question that followed. "Do you even know the full extent of what you're capable of, Captain Graves?" Vexa's voice dropped to a whisper. "And if you do, are you willing to share it?" The words lingered in the air, filling the room with a sudden, chilling tension. Graves knew she had to make a decision, one that would determine the future of humanity and its place in the galaxy. Were they even aware of the power they had unlocked? And if they were, would they be able to keep it from falling into the wrong hands? The stakes had just grown higher. The aliens had come for repairs, but now it seemed they were after something far more valuable: control over the unknown energy humanity had inadvertently discovered. And the question remained, would humanity guard this power, or would they Share it knowing it could either bring peace or ignite a galaxy-wide conflict. Captain Alara Graves stood on the command deck of the RepServe station, her gaze fixed on the growing number of ships that filled the skies above. What had once been a peaceful outpost, offering vital repair services to ships from all over the galaxy, was now the epicenter of a brewing storm. The sense of calm she had always found in the steady hum of the station was gone. In its place was a palpable tension. A massive alien fleet, unlike anything Graves had ever seen, had appeared on the outskirts of the system. The ships were massive and ominous, their designs unfamiliar and terrifying. There was no mistaking the intent. This was no ordinary diplomatic mission. A transmission came through, cutting through the silence. The voice on the other end was cold, commanding. The alien fleet demanded one thing: humanity's most advanced repair technology. The message was clear. They claimed that they intended to borrow it for the greater good of the galaxy, but Graves knew better. Borrow? The word echoed in her mind. There was no way the fleet intended to simply walk away after getting what they wanted. The situation was spiraling out of control. She watched as the fleet surrounded the station in a perfect menacing formation. The RepServe station was no longer just a repair hub. It had become the flashpoint for a galactic confrontation. In an instant, the station had gone from a place of sanctuary to a prize to be fought over. The message from the fleet had been intercepted by various alien factions who had also been flocking to the RepServe stations for their own reasons. It wasn't just the unknown fleet that sought control over human repair technology. Every major power in the galaxy wanted it. And now, those factions were clashing, vying for supremacy. Some of the more militant species were already starting to make threats. If their demands were not met, they promised swift and brutal retaliation. A few of them had already powered up their weapons, sending dangerous signals to the humans aboard the station. Captain Graves felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on her. The stakes had never been higher. If the wrong faction gained control of the repair technology, it could tip the balance of power in the galaxy in ways that no one could predict. What had once been a simple request for help had become a full-blown crisis. The RepServe stations had inadvertently become the most powerful asset in the galaxy, and now every faction wanted a piece of it. As the tensions mounted, Graves knew she had to act quickly. But how? Every decision she made could lead to disaster. She couldn't afford to make a mistake. Navigating the political web had always been difficult, but now it was like walking a tightrope. Any wrong move, and the fragile peace would shatter. She knew that diplomacy was the only option, but how could she negotiate with a fleet that was threatening destruction if their demands weren't met? She wasn't just fighting for the future of the RepServe station, but for the future of humanity itself. The galaxy was watching, and the balance of power was shifting beneath her feet. The question was, could she protect the technology and prevent a war from breaking out? Or would humanity become the unwitting pawn in a game of galactic conquest? With so many factions at odds and the fleet hovering just outside the station, Graves knew the clock was ticking. The next few hours would determine the fate of not just her people, but the entire galaxy. But there was something more than just power at play here. Something deeper. Something hidden behind the demands for human technology. She could feel it in her bones. And it was this feeling, this sense that there was something far bigger lurking in the shadows that made her question everything. Why had the galaxy suddenly become so desperate to get their hands on human repair technology? What was the true reason behind the fleet's arrival? The more she thought about it, the more she realized the crisis unfolding before her was just the beginning. Something far more dangerous was coming, and this was only the first step in a much larger game. Captain Alara Graves stood in front of the glowing holographic display in the heart of the RepServe station, her mind racing. After weeks of skirting around the truth, she and her team had finally uncovered something that would change everything. The repairs, the alien ships flocking to the station, the sudden political chaos. It all had a single shocking origin. It wasn't human ingenuity that had led to the development of the RepServe repair technology. No, the technology itself had not been created by humanity. It had been uncovered from the ruins of a long-forgotten ancient race, one that had once ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. Graves had always suspected there was something more to the technology, but she hadn't been prepared for this revelation. This race, who had vanished eons ago, had designed a remarkable piece of technology, capable of adapting to any ship, any species, and repairing almost anything. What's more, the tech wasn't just designed for repairs. It had the ability to enhance a ship's performance, pushing it beyond normal limits. It was, in essence, a tool for both restoration and evolution. The implications of this discovery were staggering. As she stared at the data, Graves felt a sense of dread settle in. The technology had been buried for millennia, lost to the ages, until humanity had stumbled upon it. Now, it had become the object of desperate interest for countless alien species. But why? It wasn't just because the RepServe stations could fix ships. They were flocking here because the technology could unlock something much more powerful, something that could enhance their dormant potential, tap into hidden strengths, and give them abilities beyond anything they had ever known. The reason the alien factions had swarmed to the human stations wasn't just for repairs. They were seeking to awaken something within themselves, something that had been dormant for ages. This was no longer just a battle for technology. It was a race to claim the key to untapped power. News of the discovery spread like wildfire through the galaxy, and suddenly, the entire universe was on edge. The aliens that had once arrived in Dysentionti, a trickle, were now coming in droves, more desperate and more aggressive. Some of them wanted the technology for the good of the galaxy, believing it could usher in an era of peace and prosperity. But others, far darker factions, wanted it for domination, intending to use it to conquer and control. With the knowledge that such power existed, Captain Graves found herself standing at the precipice of an impossible decision. Should humanity share this incredible gift with the galaxy, allowing the technology to fall into the hands of those who might use it for good, or should they keep it secret, hiding it away, and protect the universe from the chaos it could unleash? As Graves weighed the options, she could feel the weight of history pressing on her shoulders. The legacy of this ancient race was now in her hands. If she made the wrong decision, the galaxy could be torn apart by war. Worse yet, the technology might fall into the hands of the wrong species, leading to an era of tyranny and oppression. But withholding it could lead to conflict just as deadly, as the alien factions would not simply back down. They would demand it. The RepServe station, once a symbol of human ingenuity, was now a battleground in an ideological war. Graves had already seen firsthand how much these factions wanted control over the technology. Some species, like the ruthless Zora, had made it clear that they would stop at nothing to take it by force. Others, like the Zorathians, had hinted at more diplomatic methods, though Graves wasn't sure if she could trust their words. And, as if the situation wasn't complicated enough, rumors began circulating that some of the more enlightened species had already started to unlock the power of the technology for themselves. There were whispers of ships that could travel faster than light, weapons capable of shattering entire fleets with a single shot, and fleets of ships suddenly bolstering their strength beyond comprehension. Humanity's own engineers, led by Graves, were struggling to understand how to control the technology themselves. Even in the face of this overwhelming power, they had no idea what it would mean for the future of their species, or the galaxy as a whole. The discovery of the ancient technology had set off a chain reaction that could not be undone. As Graves stood in front of the data, her heart heavy with the responsibility that had been thrust upon her, she realized that the true test was just beginning. The galaxy was now watching, and the question remained: would humanity protect its legacy, Or would it become just another pawn in a much larger game? The future of the galaxy rested in her hands, but there was no easy answer, only the certainty that whatever choice she made would echo through the stars for generations to come. The tension on Repserve Station had never been more palpable. The galaxy was on the brink of war, the outcome hanging by the thinnest of threads. Captain Alara Graves could feel the weight of every decision pressing on her shoulders. The alien factions, once distant and separate, had converged on the station, and the lines between diplomacy, betrayal, and all-out conflict had blurred beyond recognition. Every species had their own interest in the ancient technology that humanity had unknowingly uncovered. Some wanted it to advance their own power, while others sought it to ensure their survival. But now, as the chaos reached its zenith, a final, undeniable truth emerged. Humanity was at the crossroads of becoming the galaxy's most feared empire or its most revered guardians. The ultimate choice lay before them, one that would define their place in the stars forever. Would they keep the power of this ancient technology to themselves, guarding it with an iron fist, and watching as the galaxy burned with distrust and anger? Or would they rise to the occasion, embracing the responsibility of leadership and offering peace, unity, and a new path for all the species to follow? As the countdown to war continued, Captain Graves knew they had only one shot to end this conflict without plunging the galaxy into chaos. With the alien fleets at the station's door, she gathered her team and devised a daring, dangerous plan. It wasn't enough to simply defend the technology. They had to ensure that it would never be used as a weapon. They couldn't let anyone, no matter their intentions, harness the full power of the ancient tech. Their mission was clear: disable it and make sure that its secrets could never again lead to destruction. But the assault had already begun. Alien forces began to converge on the station, overwhelming the defenses with a wave of firepower and sheer numbers. The Repserve crew fought bravely, but the odds were against them. Still, Captain Graves refused to back down. She led her team through the station's labyrinth of corridors, avoiding enemy fire and racing against the clock. Every second was crucial. They knew the consequences if they failed, if they allowed the technology to fall into the wrong hands. The mission was no longer just about survival. It was about ensuring that humanity didn't become the catalyst for an era of galactic war. Finally, deep within the heart of the station, they reached the control room housing the ancient tech. It was beautiful in its design, a perfect blend of organic and mechanical, radiating a power that felt almost alive. Graves hesitated for just a moment. She knew what would happen once they destroyed it. It would change everything. The galaxy would never be the same. But in her heart, she knew it was the right choice. The technology wasn't meant to be wielded by any one species. It was a gift that had the potential to save or destroy, depending on who held it. And humanity wasn't ready to play God. As the team worked to disable the core of the technology, a final wave of alien ships launched their assault. The station shook under the impact of explosions, the walls groaning as if they were about to crumble under the pressure. But they couldn't stop now. With seconds to spare, Captain Graves activated the sequence that would destroy the core. Blast powerful enough to erase the technology's secrets forever. The alien fleets, sensing the loss of their prize, attacked with even more ferocity, but it was too late. The technology was gone, its power nullified. The final act was a resounding statement. Humanity had chosen peace over power. They had chosen to protect the galaxy from itself. As the alien ships withdrew, some in defeat, others in quiet contemplation, Captain Graves looked out across the station, her heart heavy but resolute. She knew the war had been avoided, but the battle for humanity's future was far from over. Still, she could hold her head high. Humanity had proven that it was not only capable of great innovation but also of great wisdom. They had refused to be a tool of conquest. Instead, they had chosen to be guardians, custodians of peace and protectors of the future. As the station settled into silence, Graves understood the true power of humanity's legacy. It wasn't in their ability to repair ships, nor in their mastery of technology. It was in their unwavering spirit to rise above, to make the hard choice, and to show the galaxy that no one did it better than the human heart.